Let's get started, shall we? Wow, look at that boat. I mean, isn't it impressive? So that's quite something. I mean, it's when we look at this boat, we perhaps just have two questions in mind. The first one is that how do you see that boat? Is it like loaded, heavy, like massive type of, expensive? Or will you see this as a very steady, solid, waterproof, weatherproof, future-proof? So this is what we are going to answer today, one of these questions. You know that Europe actually is becoming a very strong sovereign continent, and Europe has invented digital finance strategies actually a couple of years ago. When I look at all these different acronyms, and I'm sorry because there are quite many, but we are all bankers, so I suppose that we are aware of some of these. I hear quite a few times, come on, Philippe, you're trying to resolve tomorrow's problem. This is not today's problem. This is tomorrow's problem, right? Okay, look at this. We'll be having, for instance, where is Open Finance, PSD3. Trilogue is happening right now. Expected pass in 24, late this year, in full effect in 26. AI Act coming up, February 25. Give it 2 years to implement. PSR, well, Payment Service Regulation from the PSD3, right? So that's a very good one. Effective in 26. IPR, we're right on it. Instant Payment Regulation. I'm sure everybody is working on SEPA Instant. Data Act, we also is basically, will be in full force next year. We need to implement this. Okay, I'm going to pass the others, EIDS, electronic wallet. Every state members are going to have their own. They're going to do the identification and authentication of your customers perhaps in the future. So think about this. And DORA, of course, right now. And I'm just missing a few others. So is this today's problem or is this tomorrow's problem? I call this a 7-figure problem for tier 1 and tier 2 bank. If you disagree, please let me know now. But I guess we are in the same boat on this. So we understand the complexity of it. We understand this is a massive investment. We understand that we cannot put these containers in whatever orders. We understand all this. So now let's think again. Is this really like, is this a very heavy boat or is this a future-proof boat? Well, now we are taking this boat to a very rough sea. Okay, there we go. Cyber attack, level playing field. Before talking again about regulation, I would like to talk about business, right? So as bankers, we're very concerned about our ROE, right? Return on equity. We're very concerned right now about our cost-income ratio. Where is it? High CI, because our productivity costs are increasing. We're very concerned also about the level playing thing. That's the new thing with PSD3. Basically, we are going to, the European Commission is empowering more non-bank PSPs, neobanks. Basically, they will give them, for instance, more access to payment clearing and settlement system, access to core network payments, just to name a few. They will become more and more basically competitors. How about big merchants who work with TPP and who basically, for some reason, are able really like to take full advantage of this? So I'm talking here about business. Competition is rising. Level playing field, not that good for incumbent banks. Of course, we need to fight for this. Furthermore, financial data sharing. Okay, so we had PSD2 where you can, check the balance and, make some payments, providing that, of course, you have the consent from the end customer. PSD3 goes way beyond this. Data finance, it's very much about basically investment data, mortgage data, non-collateral loan data, any type of data. So as you know, PSD2, TPP, right? Open banking. Now the new black is obviously the PSD3 FISP, Financial Information Service Provider. So You've probably noticed that we haven't spoken yet about technology, and you may wonder, hey, come on, this is a Gen AI thing. We want to hear about Gen AI. Gen AI is just a tech issue. I mean, this is the way we look at it. It's a complex one, okay, but it's not. I don't think that we should be starting the conversation with Gen AI. So, but nevertheless, we foresee that there is a very big shift in IT with significant tech disruption in the future. Okay, that was the dark side. Let's look at the happy side. So, this is the opportunities for banks. Yes, it's coming. We are having a proper enable banking ecosystem in our domestic, in our own country, but also in Europe. The banks, indeed, they have access to a safer banking ecosystem in terms of data sharing. This is what we are going to see later on. Models like banking as a service, banking as a platform, embedded finance, all this is actually heading towards this direction. New distribution channel, a bank that's very good at one thing, for instance, able to offer very good mortgage margins. It's a very, let's say, little access to new customers. So they can work with other banks or with different marketplaces in order to use them as distribution channel. But today or yesterday, they couldn't do that because it's not that safe, it's difficult to put in place, lots of regulations. But the regulations that we've seen on this boat will enable this. Right. Also, when it comes to partnership, I'd like to highlight also the shared liability and risk. What does it mean? Well, when there is a level playing field with PSPs, with other banks and non-banks and neobanks, it also means that they have more liabilities, they have more responsibilities. Not everything lies on the shoulders of the tier 1 and tier 2 banks. So the very good thing for banks here as well is that compliance is evolving from a checklist approach, check, 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 done, 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 towards a risk management approach. And this, the banks, they have invested for years in order to set up proper risk management principles. Okay, so let's see that when we look at this, it looks like, nicely bright, all the banks, they can embrace. Actually, they don't have the choice but to embrace this because other banks will do. Okay, and now you will be asking, okay, where is GenAI here? Embrace GenAI. Why? And do we have the choice? Let's think back about our boat, so all the challenges and the opportunities. Think about the magnitude of the changes that is required in order either to tackle these challenges or then to grasp the opportunities. There is only one technology which is disruptive enough in order really, really, really to help the banks, and that's GenAI. I mean, from improving productivity issues to tackling fraud, tackling GenAI generated fraud, towards offering, let's say, customized financial products directly to retail customers. So this is what GenAI is about. For the bank, it's hundreds, if not thousands of applications that they can run in order to tackle all of this. So then you will probably tell me that, hey, but this is very, very risky. I mean, think about it. We all hear about the different type of risk that there is now. So I think that the right way to to start a conversation about de-risking, because this is what this is all about, right? As banks, our bank partners, we look at two things. We look at risk and compliance, and then we look at business. We have to have a strong business case in order to move forward, and we need to align, of course, with our friends from risk and compliance in order to have the lesser risk on this. So how do we do this for what we have now? The first thing to choose is actually to select, as you know, the right problem to solve. We don't start with a tech initiative. So first we need to think about where the bank wants to position itself in the market. This has nothing to do with GenAI. I mean, if the bank has a strategic goal to increase its bottom line by 10%, so increase, better productivity, then that's the focus. And within this focus, then we need to deep dive into what's happening in the back end, in the back office. We need to deep dive into different type of financial products and verticals that we are working with, right? And then we look at, okay, how do we achieve this 10%? For some of this, there will be applications that will be related to AI and some with GenAI, because this is very different. So the first conversation that we need to have is to think that, okay, how do we balance what the bank crucially need to know, what the bank can do now, and first of all, seek for partnerships. The partnerships, this ecosystem is key because there's no way that we can reinvent the wheel on that. All right. Now, much more concretely, perhaps a few examples of GenAI applications from a low risk towards a very high risk. As usual, as you know, the data is actually in the center of everything. If we start with engineering, what we call engineering AI, that will be a low risk. Basically, documenting legacy code, converting legacy into low code, for instance. This is something, I mean, there is no customer data involved. We are basically working on-premise, everything is safe. The more we bring actually customer data, the more risky, of course, that is. Now, the source of the data, if it's an internal source, if everything's happening on-premise, of course, we're pretty good. We can anonymize or pseudonymize or noise, right, the data, but we structure it in a way so that it does the job with a proper GenAI engine. Furthermore, if we use external source, then it becomes really complex, right? So you want to know basically what kind of data you are going to use. Then this was more about from an enterprise perspective, right? So this is inner productivity. Now, if the bank is looking after growth, obviously, it's about gaining market share, making more business, selling more, making more profit. In that sense, then, customer-facing applications are required because here you're talking directly to the customers. They are the ones who will bring the money. So there are ways to de-risk things now already when we are having the right conversation in the first place. Okay, de-risk GenAI tomorrow. So back to the story about this boat. I said again, the conversations, I mean, what I've heard were more like, okay, this is tomorrow's problem. You don't need to fix this now. Well, when we look at these tomorrow's problems, I'd rather look at them as investment. And from a bank perspective, I mean, hey, this is gold. This is return on investment. The banks, they spend, I mean, how many figures in complying, in basic complying to directives and to regulations. And now it's payback time. There will be continuous, of course, investment when it comes to all the different, again, regulations and directives and so on. But try to look at the crossroads in between this regulation. Let's take one very basic example, okay? So let's say that 2026, 2 years from now, Finnish bank, right, seeking for a large merchant to sell non-collateral loans to retail customers via GenAI agents. Wow, that sounds, okay, perhaps utopic. But it takes time to deploy and to, attract customers, make some real business out there. So let's have a look at it now from a compliance perspective. You use AI Act as a base, right? Then you've already have in place DORA. So in order to launch that new, let's say to reach out for these customers in this marketplace or large marketplace, then you will have to rely on different type of third-party suppliers, which are not licensed as you, dear banks. So, but you have DORA in place. So you need to ask, you already asked from all your suppliers, how do you help me to comply with DORA? And the good ones, they have top-notch solution, and they are so good that actually they monetize this support for DORA for you. AI Act, we've got DORA. Look at PSR, Payment Service Regulation. It's really tackling fraud, less fraud payments. This is absolutely crucial to be put in place whenever you are basically having a new distribution channel, right? That would basically bring some revenues. Data Act, you recall this one? Data Act is basically like, that will help actually businesses to exchange data in a more like clarified manner, more open and safe. So that goes along well with this. And then you might wonder, how do I identify or strongly authenticate some of these retail customers coming up? So then you may say, well, we can still use, of course, the methods that we have today, or maybe we can look at the different wallets that will be coming up in the market in the future. Okay, so that was just a basic example. As a summary, I think that we need to think about the future compliance as enablers to de-risk the growth strategy of the bank. So where are we starting now? Where do we start from here? Well, the start is with a discussion, and the discussion is not with technology. I know it's sometimes difficult to hold on that conversation and say, okay, let's just leave the tech a bit aside. But haven't we learned from the past? I mean, there's been other technological disruption in the past, that's right. But that is, the banks have been able to handle this step by step, right? So from the beginning, that is a C-level conversation. It's an eye-opener. And this is what we are suggesting also with Samlink. It's about basically to put a dedicated task force that includes basically different subject matter experts, but also on the C-level. I mean, sometimes one needs to deep dive into details. So having high-level representative of compliance and legal, procurement, data, IT, business, sales, even marketing. And this is what makes the difference. When the right conversation is happening at the right time, then it actually boosts this kind of initiative. It's important also to have to basically be able to look at what's out there, because we're not going to reinvent the wheel with GenAI. It's out there already. There are plenty of companies providing applications also from the banking field. An important point as well is about the objectives and how to measure, how to quantify and qualify the outcome. So the KPIs and the OKRs that we are used to, well, they're completely different now. There's nothing to do almost. Of course, they will always have a quantified number saying that we need 10% higher productivity in this and so on and so on. But we need to consider other KPIs, OKRs, so transparency, ethics, data source, of course, quality, volume, algorithms, accuracy, liability, IPRs. So we all know GDPR, where it started, right? This is way more complex. And that's why we need to have a way more complex conversation from the beginning with executives. So we are at Samlink. We are actually here to help our banks in this journey all the way to the success with GenAI. And I hope that I've been able to convince you that we can start the conversation in this regard. Thank you very much.